All right, let's do this. I just never know how to start these things. I never look at the right spot. Oh, there we go. I'm always just vain and look at myself and not the little camera dot. There it is. Welcome into this space, Agape. I'm so glad that you guys are here. I'm so excited to introduce and to announce what we're going to be doing this summer. As we just wrapped up our spring quarter, we're really looking into what is God going to be doing in this season of rest as we enter into summer. And so we're going to start up what we're calling our summer series, where for the next 8 weeks, we're going to be tracking through the book of Philippians together as a way to keep each other accountable, but also to be growing and encouraging ourselves in the scripture and the truths of God. And so I just want to invite you into what we're going to be doing into this new summer series where we're looking at the book of Philippians. And so a few ways that you guys can be following along is each week we're going to be posting a lot to social media, to Instagram, on our story of just different ways that we can read the passage together, or different questions and ways that we can interact and grow together. And so take a moment, follow us on Instagram at Agape Bruins. There's just a chance to follow along throughout the summer in these next 8 weeks, what we're doing in the book of Philippians. You can also subscribe to this YouTube channel. It's just a way we're going to be doing weekly recaps of kind of the devotional for the week and some of the things that we've been learning as a community here at Agape. So challenge and encourage you guys to be a part of that, to follow us in those ways. As together as a community, we can be tracking along and following along. And this is going to be paired up with an in-person Bible study we're going to start doing in a few weeks. Again, just going through and learning as a community what God has for us this summer. So really excited for our summer series as we're going through the book of Philippians. And as we kind of dive in, give a little intro of what it's even going to look like, I just want to give you guys a brief background on the book of Philippians so that as we start up in the next few weeks going through each chapter for these following 8 weeks, we have a little bit of context of what is even in this book. I love Philippians. I think it's one of the most encouraging and inspiring books. Right? It's written by a guy named Paul. Paul is this guy who goes out and he plants so many different churches. He's really the guy who starts the early church in a lot of ways, and he's challenging and he's encouraging these different communities of what does it look like to live as Christ lived. And this letter to the Philippians, the church in Philippi that Paul had started, he's writing to them when he's in prison. And so he's in prison and he's writing these words of encouragement to the people, the Philippian people at the church of Philippi. And there's these few kind of core messages that we're going to be tracking throughout, we're going to be learning about each week that I think will be really pertinent to us. Right, one of the things he mentions a ton in this book is the idea of fellowship. Right? Fellowship is this word I think we toss around here and there, but what does fellowship actually mean? Right? And as Paul unpacks it and as Paul describes this idea of unity, it's this idea of connectedness, it's this idea of partnership. That Paul says that we are part of the fellowship of Christ, the fellowship of believers, that together we're united in the gospel of Christ and the good news of Jesus, and not just in the gospel, but because of the gospel, we are united and we are one people. And oh, what a more beautiful message that we could have for today than this idea that we are united, that we're in this together, that we need to come together as a body of believers to spread the good news of Jesus. So we're going to see that a lot. The other thing that Paul talked about a lot in Philippians is this idea of joy in suffering. Joy in suffering. Paul, as he's writing this, right, he's suffering, he's in prison, he's writing these words probably in chains, he's been locked up, he's maybe near the end of his life, and yet he's encouraging the Philippians to say, you know what, even in the midst of suffering, we can find great joy. And not just in our circumstances, but a joy that's deeper than circumstance, a joy that is rooted and is founded in the good news of who Jesus is. And so I think, again, this is one of these messages that we can really attach and hold on to. And so excited to be looking at this idea of fellowship. What does it mean to be united? But also, what does it mean to have joy? And lastly, Paul talks about what does it mean to exalt Christ? That even in our suffering and in our living, that Christ is central to everything we do. May that be our rally cry as we get ready to step into our summer series, that we can experience unity, that we can experience joy, and together we will proclaim the goodness of the exalted Jesus in our lives as that springs forth from us. So my prayer, my hope is that you would track with us these next 8 weeks as we enter into our summer series and really dive into what does it mean to love God and to love people. And as we do that as a community, I truly do believe that God will lead us in this space. Glad you guys are here, excited for you guys to track along with us as we enter into our summer series, going through the book of Philippians together.